it's Joe. This is my Craftmaster Dice Shooting Journey. Today is going to be episode number 6, I believe. And this is the yellow belt. So this is the third yellow belt session that we're having for the week. We got one more coming up after this for this week, and then we have all of next week. Now, I'm going to be kind of repeating yesterday's session today, but this will be the last one, and tomorrow we're going to change it up slightly. But let's start off with our stretches. We're going to start off with milk and a cow. So we're just going to make a fist and squeeze, push down. We got 3, 4, and 5. Again, blood going into our wrist, hopefully. Wrist twist out. Let's put our hand on the back of each other's hand and twist out. 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to twist the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got fingers pulling back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, these stretches can be done at the table. It can be done before you get into the casino and outside by your car, in your hotel room, before you leave to go to the casino. Our main goal here, pushing our wrist back, our gooseneck, our main goal here is just to get the blood flowing, get some mobility into the wrist, into the shoulder, into the legs, and just to loosen up a little bit, guys. Okay, we're going to do our shoulder and bicep stretch. Just putting the edge of our thumb on the edge of the table and just turning out. Again, we're going to feel that right through in here. And I am recording this in Wisconsin. We had this the start of a storm last night. We got our short stretch, our squats, keep our back straight. Just a slight squat up and down, get that blood into the legs. And we're expecting up to 12 to 15 inches of snow today, so we'll see how it goes. And our hamstring stretch, just turn to the side. And we're just going to bend straight down, keep the neck and back straight as you bend over at the waist. Again, with our stretches, if you don't feel comfortable doing this, make sure that you consult with a doctor and make sure that they okay it before you go ahead and start doing all your stretches. Moving on to George's corner. We're continuing with this document that he sent me, and he says, how do we minimize the sevens? And we're going to look at the first part of it here. He goes, firstly, we need to actually look at the dice and see that on every opposite side of each dice face, we find the number. That one added up with the other side equals 7. The 3 is opposite sides to the 4. The 5 is opposite sides to the 2. And the 6 is on the opposite side to the 1. This is very important to notice because if you understand this, then you'll start understanding the symmetry of dice sets. Now, we're going to get into dice sets as we go through the belt levels. At our current belt level, we have got 3 different dice sets that we're using. We're using our hardway set, which when lined up here, our hardway set's going to be a 5, 4, 5, 4. That is our base set that we use. We are also using our 1, 2, 2, 3 dice set. And then we're also using, and I'll use black dice here. We're also using our all 7 set, which is our 5, 4, 2, 3. So what he talks about is opposite sides of the dice always add to 7. So our 5 opposite side is 2. Our 4 opposite side is 3. Our 6 opposite side is 1. When you guys start learning more about the dice sets, that's going to come into play when we make adjustments to our throws after we get a pattern or a strong number that's coming up, we can start making adjustments to the dice. And knowing that information will help you make those decisions in the future. And when we continue tomorrow, we're going to continue on the theory that George is talking about with the opposite sides and the different things that you can do to start becoming a better dice influencer. So we have our stretching all the way. Let's review our white belt again really quick. We have to go through our dice grips. We're going to go through 10 different dice grips. And Biff Helms yesterday asked in the chat, and I need to start checking the chat before I end the live stream. But he asked about my grip. It's called a 3-finger front diagonal, or some people call it the Yuri grip. And what the Yuri grip is first of all, the 3-finger front is basically like this. It's our normal par grip, and what we're doing is, and I have a hard time getting into this without the front of the dice splitting. But what you're doing is just grabbing the top of the front of the dice with 3 fingers and the back with your thumb. What I do, and see what happens right here, guys, is when I do that, since my fingers are so wide, they tend to split apart on me. So what I do is I do the 3-finger front diagonal, and what that allows me to do is I can go just on the ends or the corners of the dice there, and I put the other fingers in there. What that allows me to do is it allows me to get into a comfortable grip so that the dice are relatively square and they're tight together. And this Yuri grip that I use, I can get into it without actually looking at it. So I know if it's set up properly without even looking at it. Now, I do look at it just to verify that everything's good before I throw. But it's comfortable enough for me to get into, and I can do it without even looking at it. So that was about 5 sets. We have about 5 more to go. Remember the dice yellow belt level here. What we're doing is we are trying to just practice each level ahead of time so we become proficient in it. That's why we're reviewing the white belt level here. But every level that we go through is going to start building on the other. So we'll do a quick review of past ones, and then we'll move on to new information as we go. We have our drop test. Again, we get into our grip. The drop test is just verifying that we can release with that thumb, not with the fingers. If you release with the thumb, you're going to have a lesser chance of pushing the dice to hopefully help prevent them from splitting. So that's why we do this drop test here, just to practice getting in the habit of releasing with the thumb. And when we get our throws a little bit later here, in a little bit, I'll go through something that I kind of revealed again with my practice last night, because I did go through and do some more practicing off camera. So that's about 5 of those. And again, guys, it's our morning dice training session. Make sure you get your dice out, you go along and you do your training with me. I don't care how advanced you are, make sure that you do practice daily. Okay, we're going to go through our dice setting, and we're going to start with our 12, 23, or 1, 2, 2, 3 dice sets. And we're just going to go through 9 sets. So we're just going to try to do it as fast as we can so we can work on expediting this process. And I know, guys, that this is kind of conceited, and I don't really want to do that. But hey, if you're finding value in these videos so far, make sure you consider giving some super chats out. I'm going to be trying to use the money that I raise from these videos to help get a better audio system, better microphone and that. And also, once I raise enough money for that, I'm going to go through and I'm going to try to increase the quality of my cameras so they're a lot clearer. I'm going to try to go to full cameras. And if you're watching this on replay, remember that there's also super stickers and super thanks that you guys can do. Not required, guys, but if you do appreciate it, it would be a nice thing to do. So that was the 1223. We get the 5, 4, 2, 3 dice set, and that's going to be all sevens. So we're just going to scoot through and do all that. 5, 4, 2, 3. And when I'm setting my dice, guys, I am actually repeating that in my head, 5, 4, 2, 3. So that way I can hopefully find it a little bit faster in the table. And remember, the opposite sides are sevens here, guys. You know, another way you can get into it, if you think about on the 5, 4, 2, 3, the 6 is always on the left side here. So if you can find the 6, which is relatively easy, just flip it around and get the 5, 4 and the 2, 3. 4 and 2, 3. 6, 5, 4. And like I said, or not like I said, like I do though, if you watch this guy, I use my thumb to flip the dice around. I also use my thumb and forefinger if I have to do it different directions also. So find your little way of doing this and just keep on practicing it. 5, 4, 2, 3, which is the last one on that one. And then our last dice set that we're going to practice is our base set, which is the hard weight set. And that's the 5, 4, 5, 4. Now, talking about the different dice sets, we talked about yesterday how the 1, 2, 2, 3 produces sevens and the different numbers that it produces. Today, we're going to go through, we're going to talk about. I'm having a hard time talking and doing this, guys, which that's good practice you want to do. But today we're going to go through, we're going to talk about the 5, 4, 2, 3 dice sets and the numbers and type of things that it produces. So if you look at the 5, 4, 2, 3 dice set, that's the all 7 set. You don't want to use if both of your dice are staying on axis. And let me practice going through this here quick and I'll show you what I mean by that. Because that is considered the all sevens dice set. So obviously if it stays on axis, then you're going to come up with sevens. So we get the 5, 4, 2, 3, which is the all sevens. So if you stay on axis, you have sevens. You have 5, 2, 7, 4, 3, 7, 2, 5, 7, and your 3, 4, 7. And if one dice stays on axis and it either implodes, it either implodes or explodes, you're going to come up with sevens too. So and that was an implode right there, or an explode, I'm sorry. And we have the 1, 2, 3, but here's your sevens. 1 right there, and you got 1 right there. And that happens the other way also. If your dice double implode or double explode, that's where your sevens come as well. So you have your 6s, and that's 7s all the way around. And a double explode, same thing happens there, guys. So things to think about. Remember that this all 7 set is good for the 6s and 8s, box numbers and inside numbers, and the 7s will show on 22.22% of the rolls. So something to consider about that all 7s dice set. Okay, moving on to our barrel dice. Again, in my yellow belt video, I show how to make these barrel dice. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you check that yellow belt video out. Our goal during our yellow belt level, and this will be my last session doing this with the barrel dice as the dominant throwing dice. But your goal is to throw it without a wobble. So you want to make sure that it's not wobbling, doing all weird different things. You want to see it go down the table and spinning like this, and then when it hits flat, hopefully, it'll reverse the direction of the spin. So something to kind of watch for. Yesterday we also went through it. If you haven't watched the video, I'll talk about this really quick right now. In the first couple of videos, I talk about making sure that your dice are square on the lines. And what you want to do is, we're going to change that slightly. When you bring your hand up and right before the release point, you're going to try to square the dice off to the table. So if I put it down, it's going to be square to the table. Now, bring your hand back and see where the dice land up. And for me, I have a slight twist on the dice. So knowing this is how I want to set my dice up when I'm actually getting ready to throw. So if you look at that, and if I can make a reference on my table, which will hopefully go over to other tables, it's going to be almost a slant of the A on the pass here. So when I'm setting up, I'm going to start with that right there, that angle on my dice. So that way when I release, they will be square, and hopefully they'll land flat and square at the end of the table. So we're going to practice our grip, get into it, and we're just going to toss down to the end of the table. Again, we're not really worried right now about the landing zone, but what we are worried about is trying to get the dice down there so they land flat and hopefully land square towards the end of the back wall. And that first one was not a good throw. And that was a much better throw. You guys saw how it bounced, went straight into the wall, came straight back and landed right at the bottom of the alligator bounce. Now the thing I was talking about before is a slight change I'm going to make is in the first couple videos in this series, the yellow belt and the white belt, I talked about not doing that pendulum swing, so not coming back with your swing. I've been trying, guys, to cut that out, and it's been impossible for me. When I'm doing the actual throw, it feels like I'm going straight forward. But I'm watching the reviews, I'm actually coming back just a little bit. And I'm going to put this out there that if you can cut that little backswing out, that's going to be the preferred method. Okay, but if you can't, try to minimize it as much as possible. So that way you're not coming all the way up. You're actually just coming a little bit. The reason I say that, guys, is everything we do is variable. And you want to try to minimize that variable as much as possible, make things as constant as you can. And if that little backswing, just that little tiny bit, is comfortable for you, continue doing that as long as it's minimized. But also remember that make sure when you do that little one, it doesn't bring you off your path. So if you're coming back along this line right here, so, you know, I'm bringing the dice back along the line, make sure you stay on the line. Do not come off the line. Okay? Make sure you stay on the line when you do the back swing, for lack of better terms here, guys. So let's go through a couple more tosses here. Again, stay with a slight angle for my own throw. The weight is even on both feet. And swing through. And that one obviously did not get all the way down to the end of the table. It landed a little bit on the corners of the dice. So that was not a great throw. Again, I think it's too much talking and not enough concentrating on my part. That was a mediocre throw. It landed, bounced up kind of high, but it landed right where it initially hit. So it did not bounce off to the left or right, which is a good thing. And I did not see any wobble in the dice, so that's also another good thing. Another good throw. That one, you guys saw it bounce, came up and landed right down, almost tight up against the wall there. So, things that we're looking for, guys. Keeping the wobble out, making sure that you feel comfortable that you're getting consistent throws. That throw that was in the mixing bowl in the corner. Another was a one off the line a little bit. But getting those throws getting the wobbles. Once you get to that point, you'll be able to move on further into the yellow belt level. We're going to start doing that in the next session. So tomorrow, which will be the last one for the week. Okay, that was a little bit better. Still went off a little bit left to that. Looking through the chat here, we have Jim is here, Nemo's here, Victor's here, Neraldo's here, Chris from Sideshow's here. Chris went through an extensive live stream last night with Ed Robinson working on his throw. If you've not checked that video out or if you've not seen the live stream last night, make sure you check it out. Ed did an excellent job on trying to coach Chris through some mechanical changes that he can make in his throw to become a better dice influencer at the table. And Chris was extremely receptive. I don't know how he did it because it was well over an hour-long video. You had to have been tired. I know he did at least 100 throws last night. And if you've not done 100 practice throws before, guys, try it once because it is quite extensive and it's quite tiring actually to do. And I cannot imagine being a person that does 100 throws at a table at one shot. That would be awesome monetary wise, but that would be a very tiring event. So props goes out to Chris and to Ed, who were both willing to go live and demonstrate their skills. Chris from his throwing perspective, Ed from his coaching perspective. Now, Ed is considered one of the best in the world dice throwers. Very, very, very humble person, extremely nice person, very willing to share his knowledge. So he is a huge positive asset, just like George from CY is, to the community of crafts. So I thank those guys for their contributions that they have made thus far in the YouTube world. That was a terrible throw. We cannot end on that. We're coming towards the end of this training session here, guys. Let's see if we get one more good one in. And that was not too bad. One of the things that Chris talked about last night that he saw changing with his dice throw was that the dice were getting down to the end of the table and they were kind of sticking. And that was some of the things that Ed had him change with the mechanics. So in other words, they were going down just like that last one just did. Even though I'm using barrel dice, it still did the same thing. Is it went down there and it stuck at the table. In other words, it didn't like bounce randomly or wildly off the back wall. It bounced in different directions. And a lot of that had to do with the grip that Ed had him change around a little bit, how hard he was holding it, where his landing zone was, and just the general concentration that he had him doing. Terrible throw on that one. That one, what happened is I landed on the right side, so when I let go, it landed on the right side dice, and that throws it the opposite direction. And that's something we're going to learn as we go through the system, also through the belt levels, on how to read the dice. So, that was a good throw. Let's end it right there. Thanks for joining in, guys. Let me check the chat really quick before we get going. You're very welcome, Chris, for the kind words because they are justified. But hey, my name is Joe, and this is my Craftsmaster dice shooting journey. Let's make it yours as well.